Next on Sisterhood of the Second Act.
Menopause will come to every woman. Knowing the facts and being proactive can help make it easier for you to face this change. Family Nurse Practitioner Tara Stone is here to answer our questions. During the week, Joy Manning oversees construction projects. On the weekend, she is a world champion wakeboarder. In fact, the Smith Mountain Lake resident is a 9-time world champion and joins us today with her inspirational story. More from these women on this edition of Sisterhood of the Second Act.
Sisterhood of the Second Act is brought to you by Step out the door with confidence, ready to conquer the day. Whether you are going to the cafe down the street or headed into work, you know you will always look your best in Cabby Styles. Your stylist, Darlene Marshall, will help you pick the styles that make you sparkle. And Cabby has styles for all body types. Call Darlene at 540-330-6819, 540-330-6819, and follow her on Instagram at Dapper Darlin.
I'm going to be an oak tree.
I think I'll be a dogwood tree.
My kids say they be looking for a thorny tree from me.
With Evergreen, you can be a tree. Our biodegradable urn combines your ashes, natural soil additives, and a native tree of your choice. Be a tree and grow for tomorrow.
I want to be a tree.
Learn more at evergreenmemorialtrust.com.
Buy local this holiday season and get unique gifts on time. Start your holiday shopping at the New Moon Network store for original artwork by the Virginia artists featured on the Sisterhood of the Second Act set. You will also find Sisterhood merchandise there. Stop by the Earthworks Artworks Gallery at 228 South Pollard Street in Vinton, Virginia, or shop online at newmoonnetwork.com and have it delivered to you. Your purchase supports Virginia artists and local programming by the New Moon Network. There's more inside the hemp mill than CBD products. There's a community. Stop in for Friday's Coffee Talk to enjoy free hemp coffee and treats. Patent-pending products made from hemp for anxiety, pain relief, and organic healthy eating. Cannabinoid products you can trust because the hemp is locally grown, processed, and formulated by us with patent-pending formulations. That includes our Pet Calm and dog biscuits. The Hemp Mill, women-owned and operated with nutritional offerings, local cards, gifts, jewelry, and trending fashions made by women-owned businesses. TheHempMill.net. Now from the Fox Radio Roanoke studio, here's Kathy Heberle.
Welcome to Sisterhood of the Second Act. I'm Kathy Heberle. Depending on your perspective, menopause is either a welcome change or an end tinged with sadness. And even though every woman goes through it, there are plenty of questions that need to be answered. Tara Stone is a family nurse practitioner with LewisGale Physicians. She is here to demystify the experience. Thank you for being here, Tara.
Thank you for having me.
How do you know if you are experiencing symptoms of perimenopause or menopause, and what's the difference?
Well, perimenopause starts before menopause, and it can actually occur for about 8 to 10 years before menopause. That's excessive, but it can happen early 40s. And then once you have 12 months without a menstrual cycle, that's considered menopause.
Okay, that's good to know the difference in there. And then I think a lot of us, the first thing you think about when you hear that is hot flashes, night sweats.
Yes.
What causes that? What causes those symptoms?
So when you actually go through perimenopause and into menopause, your estrogen and progesterone levels start to change.
Okay.
You go from a normal level to less and less until your body doesn't produce it anymore. So that's why you start getting all those, they're vasomotor symptoms, and they affect most women that go through perimenopause and menopause naturally. Not every person, but most women.
Okay. And what are known risk factors for hot flashes?
Most women that experience more hot flashes are overweight, There's a lot of sugar in their diet. Carbohydrates produce more hot flashes. They may not be taking certain vitamins. And sometimes it's just genetics.
Oh, I had no idea that diet played a role in it.
Oh, absolutely. And I see a lot of women in my practice between the ages of 40 and 60. And the more and more women I talk to in that age group, if they've been through menopause, they'll tell me, menopause was like a breeze for me. And I've started asking, what's the common denominator? And they will say, I really pushed exercise, I ate healthy, I limited my sugar intake, and I didn't have a lot of hot flashes or trouble sleeping or a lot of extra weight gain. Everything that kind of comes along with menopause.
That is so, and I'm a sugar addict, so that is
Me
not
too.
too good for me.
That's why I've read a lot about this.
Oh my goodness. So it does sound like some women could be more likely than others to get them.
Yes.
Due to all these factors that you mentioned. And how long should we expect these symptoms to last then? Since you're giving us kind of an
I know there's a big
lengthy window there. Right.
To put a time limit on it, I don't know that I can, because some women in their 40s, the symptoms are very vague.
Okay.
Things start to change. They show up in the office and they're like, I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden I've put on this belly weight that I've never had. I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm hot, and then I'm cold, or, I'm at work, it's a normal day, and the temperature in the office is normal, but I get real sweaty.
It just depends.
Yes, it depends, because it can it can be minimal and then get worse, or it could be minimal the whole way through, and you just have these minor symptoms. Everybody's different.
A little bit different. Mm-hmm. So what is the younger age that you might, where you might even think you're too young to have menopause? Like what age with the perimenopause to the menopause, do women in their 30s get these symptoms, or 40s? When I know you're giving us a window, it's hard, but some women might say, I'm too young for that.
I would never say that.
No, okay.
So I would think too young, as long as a female has not had a hysterectomy and had their ovaries removed, uterus removed, would be 30s.
Okay.
Even early 40s. It's going to be more mid-40s you start to hear these complaints.
Okay. I'm talking with Family Nurse Practitioner Tara Stone. And do women still need birth control once they start some of these symptoms? What do you recommend?
So as long as you have a menstrual cycle, you need birth control.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're saying up to you have to go for 12 months before you can be officially considered
menopause.
Menopause. Okay. And some of the other questions we have are, if you've lost your sex drive, is there anything you can do to get it back?
Yeah, of course there's stuff you can do. First of all, if you lose your sex drive, don't just assume it's menopause, but go see your primary care, have some labs done, have them look at your medication list, have them talk about vitamins with you, and check, when you get your labs checked, have them check your hormone levels.
Hormone levels. Okay. All right. So another symptom that sometimes I know women go through is incontinence. And does it go away, and what do you do about it if you have it? Can you give us some advice?
So incontinence comes in several different forms. Some people, there again, it can be very mild or very severe. It depends a lot on how many children you've had.
Sure.
That affects the pelvic floor and the muscles in the pelvic floor. There's medication to help remedy it. There's actually a pelvic floor therapy that female, physical therapists do to help women. There's Kegel exercises. Everybody's heard of that. So there are treatments.
Yes. Well, that's good to know. Could symptoms be caused by, well, I think you just alluded to that, but symptoms can be caused by conditions other than menopause when you have the incontinence. Is that what you said?
Sure.
Yes, that could be. And then should I be seeing a specialist such as a gynecologist if I'm having problems?
I would start with your primary care.
Okay.
And if they're able to address some of the problems, because you want to look at other things, the thyroid. I mean, there can be, some women are anemic and they have similar issues. So I would start there, and then they
Okay.
can determine if you need to move
Thank
to a
you.
gynecologist.
I'm talking with Family Nurse Practitioner Tara Stone with a very good help for us ladies here. And then the other thing is, how does menopause affect my health over the long term?
So when you lose those hormones in your body, you do have to think about your bone health and your
Okay.
heart. That's why it is important to exercise 3 to 4 days a week,
Okay.
30 minutes at a time. Get your heart rate up, burn the extra fat off, burn some calories off, and then also start thinking about a healthy diet and vitamin D and calcium.
Very good. And those, as we just learned earlier,
Osteoporosis.
osteoporosis, they do help
Yes,
with that.
good
Now,
preventative.
one of the questions that I was given, and this is one that I still relate to, what if the symptoms interfere with your ability to get a good night's sleep? Or even some women, it goes to the extent of impairing their quality of life. So what kind of treatments can they seek from should they go to their primary care doctor?
Of course.
Yes.
A lot of women take a hormone replacement.
Oh,
Some women,
okay.
if the symptoms are mild, they do fine with just a few vitamins. There are several out there that kind of calm. Magnesium and vitamin D, vitamin B12, great for hot flashes, good for sleep. There's a calming magnesium that some women use. Melatonin is a big
Yes.
one. I think everybody knows that. Take that at bedtime. That should help those symptoms. As symptoms worsen, though, and it is affecting quality of life, some women do choose to do a hormone treatment.
They do. Okay, so that's another option for women.
Absolutely.
I'm talking with Family Nurse Practitioner Tara Stone, and I think another question women have is, does menopause put me at a higher risk for heart disease, osteoporosis, or other complications?
I don't want to say menopause puts you at risk. I think your health prior to menopause, during menopause, and after puts you more at risk.
Oh, good to know.
And that's where a healthy lifestyle comes in to prevent that.
Well, we hear that enough. For sure. And then, should we get screened for complications if we suspect, if we're struggling with menopause, should we get screened for complications such as heart disease? Could there be underlying causes that we're ignoring because we think we're just dealing with menopause?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
What would some of those be, and what should we kind of look out for?
Well, if you're experiencing shortness of breath, heart palpitations,
Oh, okay.
dizziness, headaches, there's a number of reasons that those issues can come up that have nothing to do with menopause.
Okay. So how do you kind of know? Because it sounds like menopause can present itself in quite a few different ways, and that can affect your everyday life. So how do you is there something in particular other than annual checkups and you're making sure you have a regular medical checkups? Is there something else that you could?
Annual wellness is the most important. You're going to have your blood work done. But then if everyday life is normal and then all of a sudden things start to change, go see your primary care and talk to them about the changes.
Okay.
Because
Talk to them about the changes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And it could start at any age. Is there an age that generally menopause does kind of, most women are through menopause by a certain age? Like if they feel like they're struggling for if it's going on for a while, is there an end in sight? Can we give them some hope? Like
I would say by age 60.
Age 60, you should be
You're over the
giving
hump.
Perfect. Excellent. And then the last question I have is, should I be doing anything to protect my heart and bones? Obviously in general, and then also, in relation to after you go through menopause with the changes in hormones and everything. Is there something else we should be doing?
Yes. So exercise protects the bones and the heart.
Okay.
Low cholesterol diet, low fats, low sugar, and I don't know what's left to eat after that, but
I know, nothing, right?
How it feels. And then again, your vitamin D, calcium, a multivitamin daily.
Okay. And what any particular blood test that you would recommend that you might want to make sure that you get if it's not part of a normal routine as you're going through menopause,
Other than checking your hormone levels,
Okay.
just to see exactly where you are between
Yes.
perimenopause and menopause.
Okay, well, this has been really very, very educational. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here today, Tara.
Thanks again for having me.
It's been my pleasure. We'll have Tara's contact information in our show notes on our website, sisterhoodofthesecond-act.com. There's more Sisterhood of the Second Act ahead. Our next guest overcame a fear and became a world champion. More after this.
I'm gonna be an oak tree.
I think I'll be a dogwood tree.
My kids say they be looking for a thorny tree from me.
With Evergreen, you can be a tree. Our biodegradable urn combines your ashes, natural soil additives, and a native tree of your choice. Be a tree and grow for tomorrow.
I want to be a tree.
Learn more at evergreenmemorialtrust.com.
Buy local this holiday season and get unique gifts on time. Start your holiday shopping at the New Moon Network store for original artwork by the Virginia artists featured on the Sisterhood of the Second Act set. You will also find Sisterhood merchandise there. Stop by the Earthworks Artworks Gallery at 228 South Pollard Street in Vinton, Virginia, or shop online at newmoonnetwork.com and have it delivered to you. Your purchase supports Virginia artists and local programming by the New Moon Network. Once again from the Fox Radio Roanoke studio, here's Kathy Heberle.
Welcome back to Sisterhood of the Second Act. I'm Kathy Heberle. Joy Manning will tell you she works all week so she can spend the weekend on the water. The 9-time world champion wakeboarder had to overcome a fear to reach her goals. Thank you for coming in today, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So first of all, what is wakeboarding and what is this fear you had to overcome?
So wakeboarding is a sport that's done behind, I typically do it behind a boat, but you can also do it behind a cable system and also a winch system. But it's basically, I describe it as similar to snowboarding, but you're doing behind a boat. And so the boat creates a wake, which you use as a ramp to elevate yourself off the water and perform different types of tricks in order to do, and land on the other side.
Sure.
So wakeboarding is basically judged based on the skills that you perform, the difficulty of the skills you perform, and the how elegant or what style you put into the tricks that you are doing, and how clean they are, how you land when you finish.
Just like most other sports that you compete in.
Just like gymnastics or figure skating or anything like that.
I love
yes.
it. It's very intriguing to me. Can you tell me, I was told that you had a fear, so
Yes.
I would love to hear about that. Can you share that with our audience?
Yes. So I had a huge fear of the water, and not so much. I love swimming pools. I love swimming. It's mainly things under the water and things in the water, such as in lakes and oceans.
Sure.
And so I grew up in the area. I grew up in the era of Jaws and the movies of Jaws being created. I had an older brother that would torment me every now and then. When we went to the beach with my grandparents where they lived, he'd torment me about what's in the water. And, and so I grew up with that huge fear. And snakes, I don't have I'm a little bit afraid of snakes, and I had an incident with a water snake at one point, and I was just done. I didn't want to be in the water at all. Even when we went on a boat, I was content sitting on the boat, just watching my friends having fun.
Sure.
They would often get me to tube, and if I fell in the water, I would literally start to hyperventilate, and they would get me out of the water as quickly as possible. So it was a real good fear. It was a fear, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
well then tell me, so when did you start wakeboarding?
So I started wakeboarding about 15, 16 years ago. I was 32, 33 years old. And at that point, I had never been in the water. And my husband and I went to a wakeboarding event. My husband, when I grew up, or as we were, when we were married and we first started coming to the lake, he got into wakeboarding like in the early 90s.
Okay.
And I loved enjoying watching him wakeboard. But yeah, so we went to a wakeboarding event, and there were no women at all at the event. There was there was one.
Okay.
And, I struck up a conversation with a friend sitting on the shoreline and just talking about why women weren't wakeboarding. And a lot of it turned into the fear of
Yes.
why they didn't want to get into the water and try wakeboarding.
So what got you into the sport?
So into that, we had that conversation, and she's like, everybody's afraid of the water, and I just don't understand. And I kind of thought to myself, why am I so afraid?
Right.
And literally the next day, I suited up in a full-blown wetsuit, so nothing in the water could touch me.
I like it.
Got in the water, got up on my second or third try of wakeboarding, and literally loved it. My husband, we drove straight to the wakeboard shop and bought a wakeboard. So it really just started from there.
You got hooked right off.
Right away.
bat.
It was so much fun to learn.
How exciting. So we are talking with world champion wakeboarder Joy Manning. And how did you make the jump from weekend wakeboarder to competing?
So probably about a year after I was learned to wakeboard, I had started to do my first invert, which is a flip. Either a front flip or a back flip. About a year on purpose. It was above the water. And so at that point, I had started to accelerate some of my skill levels that I was doing. And I had done a couple of training sessions with local wakeboard shops and local friends that would teach me how to wakeboard. And they had kind of encouraged me to try one of the local events that they were having. And at that time, at Smith Mountain Lake, they had many wakeboarding events going on. The wakeboard shop sponsored some of the riders. And I tried my first event, and I think I got third in that event out of like 4 or 5 ladies. It wasn't too many ladies, but I got third out of it. And I was like, wow, this is, kind of fun. Let's keep it going. So it went from, when we first owned our property at the lake, we were traveling every week from Northern Virginia down, and it was primarily just so that I could train every single weekend.
So you did spend a lot of time to learn the sport.
Yep, we did. Yep.
And was there a moment when you thought, I can be successful at a higher level?
Yeah, and at that point, when I started competing in the local events, either at Smith Mountain Lake or lakes very close to this area, we started to do some more regional events, which were more in North Carolina, primarily in North Carolina, maybe a couple in South Carolina. I started to do some training and went down once or twice a year to Florida and trained with some coaches down there. And they pretty much encouraged me to go ahead and start doing the national scene. When I started the national scene, there was a lot more wakeboarders that I could compete against, as opposed to the local regional events. A lot of times I would just go to the regional events and I would be the only one, multiple times. And if I was the only one, they pretty much grouped the girls all together. So it was just one division for girls, and there was no level of challenge there when you're riding against a 9-year-old, which makes it a little bit different.
That was going to be a question that I had, because I would like to know about the goals that you set for yourself, but also I know, say you're a woman in running events, that it's usually by age or something. So there was no categories for women.
Yep, at the local and regional events, they were typically just, some of them, as you changed from local to regional, you would get into some divisions, as in the skill levels, but primarily it was girls.
So how did you set yourself goals, and how did for each level that you wanted to do, since there wasn't really a lot of, it sounds like there wasn't really a lot of levels to work. How did you set goals?
I mean, a lot of it in the beginning was just my personal goals. Every year I would set down, I want to learn this trick, or I know that I can do this trick or work up to this trick. So a lot of it was just my personal goals. I never really set goals for, obviously when you get into the national world scene at the beginning of each year, you obviously, everybody wants to win, right?
Sure, of course.
I am very competitive and I compete against myself. So when I go to those events, I have goals that I want to, tricks I want to hit during that event. So yeah, I mean,
it's well, in addition to sounding like it keeps you in wonderful shape and gives you, I'm sure it's good mentally as well as physically for everything that you do. Where has wakeboarding taken you?
So, as far as like traveling to events.
Traveling.
So I have been all over the United States, Seattle, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, many times down to Florida, Texas. But we've also traveled I've had a World's event in Portugal. Beautiful country. We've been to Japan, Portugal, Montreal. Yeah, so we've had it's
international as well as national.
Very much international. And my husband and I use it as an excuse. Like, these are places places we probably wouldn't picked on our own to go.
Sure.
And every year we're surprised on where our vacations are going to be.
Oh my goodness. We're talking with world champion wakeboarder Joy Manning, and one of your passions is getting more women involved in the sport. You might have somebody right here. It sounds fascinating. How do you do that? How do you get women involved?
So I've been involved in several Women on the Water events where it actually teaches women to not only drive a boat, launch a boat, pull a rider behind you, park a boat. So those are some really important things that ladies are very afraid of doing.
Right.
And when they do try to learn that, usually there's their husband or boyfriend or whatever behind them, and sometimes it doesn't go so friendly. But when you have other women encouraging you and showing you how to do those things, it's a lot smoother, and they're so much fun. They're so much fun to do that. I also do women. I used to do Women Wednesday ridings with Smith Mountain Lake Wake Company at the lake, and we're going to start doing some more of those again. But those are super fun events just to get ladies out who have never tried to wakeboard before. And most of them are getting up on their first tries or first times they're coming to those events, and they start falling in love with it too. So
well, I like the idea of the skills that they can learn, but also I imagine there has to be some element of some safety training in there as well. Is there that you go over so that they feel at least a little bit confident getting into the water?
And absolutely, and that is a lot of learning how to do it, and the driver teaching you how to get up. Having a skilled driver is very important. It's very different from water skiing, where water skiing you hit the throttle really hard and pull the person out of the water. With wakeboarding, it's just, the surface of that wakeboard, getting your wakeboard up on top of that surface. So you don't have to go fast at all.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that, because it clarifies it. And another thing that I would love to know is, what kind of friendships have you made from your experience as a wakeboarder?
Yeah, now some of my best friends are my wakeboarder friends that I've met over competitions. I've been in weddings for many of these ladies. I've been to weddings for most of them. Yeah, so I mean, we talk often. We are constantly encouraging each other. As I said before, I'm super competitive, so I like them pushing me and me pushing them. Many of my friends have, a couple of them have gone through breast cancer and have had to deal with that element of health problems while they're still competing, and encouraging them to continue to stay out there and keep with it, and even wakeboard after is it's important for the ladies to stick together.
That's fantastic. So to wrap it up then, what would you say to a woman who might be interested but feels she's too old or too out of shape?
Yeah. And so I do get that question a lot too. Yes. Everybody's like, I'm too old, I can't do that. But a few years ago, I actually took my mother-in-law, when she turned 70, wakeboarding, and she got up on her first try. She rode for about a minute or two and then dropped down, and she says, "Okay, I'm done, I did it." And that was check box.
That's what she wanted to do.
But yeah, I mean, and like with me, with my fear, I am not completely over that fear. It's totally in the back of my mind every time I ride. Many times when I go to Florida, there's signs all over the place that say gators in water,
Yes.
So it's just, you just need to go out and overcome your fear and move on. Yep.
Well, it has been such a pleasure, Joy. I so enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure. We will have Joy's contact information in our show notes on our website at sisterhoodofthesecondact.com. We'll be back to wrap up the show after this.
Kathy's wardrobe provided by cabbie stylist Darlene Marshall. See the styles in our show notes at sisterhoodofthesecondact.com. There's more inside the hemp mill than CBD products. There's a community. Stop in for Friday's coffee talk to enjoy free hemp coffee and treats. Patent pending products made from hemp for anxiety, pain relief, and organic healthy eating. Cannabinoid products you can trust because the hemp is locally grown, processed, and formulated by us with patent pending formulations. That includes our Pet Calm and dog biscuits. The Hemp Mill, women-owned and operated with nutritional offerings, local cards, gifts, jewelry, and trending fashions made by women-owned businesses. TheHempMill.net.
I want to thank Tara Stone and Joy Manning for being with us today. Tara gave us a better understanding of some of the symptoms and treatments of menopause, and Joy inspired us to overcome our fears and reap the benefits of trying something new and challenging. I'm Kathy Heberle. Join us again next week for another edition of Sisterhood of the Second Act.